The great Steve Wyche here, joining us of NFL Network, NFL Media. Steve, great to have you on with us. Just heard from Baker Mayfield there. He sounded apoplectic almost about his time in Cleveland and being ready to move on, but nothing's happened. Break it down for us. What's the tone of Baker Mayfield's reputation around the NFL? Is it still that he's immature? Is that he can't perform at a high level as a number one quarterback? Why hasn't there been any level of interest, or are teams just waiting on him to be released so they don't have to take on that massive salary hit this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit of everything. Look, some teams really like Baker Mayfield, other teams didn't. I mean, there's a lot of teams where, hey, we need quarterbacks, but okay, let's go out and get Marcus Mariota. Let's go out and get some of these other guys because they know Baker's in the last year of his deal. He is playing for his next deal. Some teams will view that as motivation. Other teams will view that as him looking out for himself. So there's that part. Then there's the almost $19 million guaranteed salary the teams do not want a part of. And do not underestimate this. Very few of the other 31 owners are happy that the Browns, when they traded for Deshaun Watson, guaranteed him a $230 million contract. Because now, anytime they've got a quarterback coming up, be it Justin Herbert, be it Joe Burrow, be it Lamar Jackson, those guys are going to say that contract is the floor for me. And that's so. I mean, there's a lot of folks who aren't loving the has-beens right now. So they're just not going to do them a favor by giving up much to get Baker Mayfield. Cleveland's going to have to pay part of that $19 million salary for some team to come get him. And when you look around the league, guys, there's very few teams that need starting quarterbacks right now. And guess what? Jimmy Garoppolo, he's recovered from that shoulder surgery. He's starting to throw the ball. There's a lot of teams who'd rather have a quarterback like Garoppolo, who's played the Super Bowl, than Baker Mayfield.
Look, for me,
go ahead, Carron.
As a Michigan native and Michigan fan, anytime bad things happen to teams in Ohio, I celebrate it. So I've been loving watching this because, anything in Ohio and that state can burn and die. But as we're talking about the Browns here, we got the Mayfield situation. We will get to Watson later, but we're getting they're going to start, working out. What are they going to do with that quarterback situation with all these question marks? Because you went and got a guy, like you just said, and gave him all this money, but he might not be playing. We'll touch on a little later. And the guy you had there, that's over. If this doesn't work out for them and the NFL doesn't do what I think they would do, like who do you slot in that position and how many options do the Browns have?
Well, Jacoby Brissett's going to be the quarterback. I mean, that's why they signed Jacoby. Here's a guy who started, I think, 60-some games. He's not put in some great situations, so he's got a losing record in those situations. But you have to look at the leadership stuff. Guy's got a huge arm. Cleveland's probably thinking, okay, we'll have to rock with Jacoby for 6 to 8 games. But if they got to rock with him for a full season, you have to ask yourself, I mean, is he the guy to get us over the top? Because the rest of this roster, except for wide receiver, is Super Bowl ready. I mean, they're stacked, at all three levels of the defense. Their offensive line is excellent. They've got 2 great running backs. So that's the issue right there in a division where you've got the AFC champions, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, and Mike Tomlin. They look vulnerable for the first time because of their quarterback situation, but the Ravens aren't going anywhere. So, you've got to be competitive. And right now they're at the biggest quarterback disadvantage in that division. And we've seen all the talent drain come over to the AFC as well. So if they got to rock with Jacoby Brissett, that's kind of what they set themselves up to do. Like, okay, we'll go with Jacoby, but Baker Mayfield is not walking through that door. They're not going to pay the salary for Jimmy Garoppolo. So maybe if they feel they've got to go out and get a veteran who's out there, fine. But that veteran player is not going to be any better than Jacoby Brissett, who's been in their camp all summer, learning their system. So I think that's what they're just, ready to do. And if they've got to run the ball 45 times a game with those stud running backs, with Chubb, and what they have back there, that's what I guess they'll plan on doing.
Yeah, you mentioned the defense. Myles Garrett is a monster on that line, and I think that's something's going to come to the forefront this year. But now we got to talk about the nasty man. We got to talk about Deshaun Watson. Unfortunately, he settled 20 of the 24 cases. You saw it to come out yesterday, Steve, that the NFL, I believe that they recommended an indefinite suspension, which sounds like a year, but maybe it's going to be 6 to 8 games. I guess my question to you is, does the NFL have a leg to stand on, considering the Daniel Snyder situation that hasn't been fully addressed? Or do you look at what happened last year with him basically being on the indefinite on the list, where he basically didn't play at all, as a suspension in itself, and then that is being factored into whatever punishment he'll receive in addition to that?
Now remember, he was on no list last year. It was basically a mutual agreement.
He's just inactive. He's just inactive. That's right.
But they said, we're going to pay you to stay away. So, that was the mutual agreement right there. He was not on a commission exempt list or anything like that. So that was just an agreement. So but you better believe that the Players Association, which has, its attorney, Jeffrey Kessler, who has been an antagonist in the NFL and labor negotiations, things like that for years. He's working for Deshaun here. He's going to say he missed last year, right? He's going to argue that point of him not playing last year. He's going to argue the point that he has settled these cases, and he's going to argue the point that 2 grand juries found no reasons to criminally charge Deshaun Watson, so therefore he should not be suspended any games. Whereas the league is going to argue, look, we have precedent with Ben Roethlisberger, with Ezekiel Elliott, guys who were not criminally charged, but they violated the league's personal conduct policy, so we sat them down for a number of games. So those arguments are going to be presented, because remember, it is not the league that makes initial discipline anymore. They have an agreed upon disciplinary officer that the Players Association and the NFL agreed upon. Whereas before, Roger Goodell was, judge and jury in the situation. Now they've got a third party who's going to listen to all of the evidence and make a decision there. And then there could be appeals on either side. But, we'll see what happens. And this is something that this third party is going to have to decide, in terms of at least the initial disciplinary action on Deshaun Watson, if there is any at all.
Steve, the way you broke this down, and if we take a look at all the variables at play here, right? We've got the Players Association, we got the league, we have the history of suspensions, we have the history of NFL players and wrongs against women, we have what's happening in this country right now with Roe v. Wade. And we just saw this franchise give the biggest guaranteed contract to this guy. Is there any way that any side is pleased with whatever comes down? Because in my gut, I just feels like whatever they decide isn't going to be enough. Because I personally don't feel like a year is enough, even if he does get a year. But I just see that whenever this happens and a decision is made, there is going to be one side that is rightfully pissed and outraged, because this is how these things usually turn out.
Yeah, there's going to be no win for whatever ruling comes down, right? So let's suppose he gets a year, but then there's going to be people saying, well, look, people accuse, players of stuff all the time. There's no really hard evidence that, 2 grand juries found to prosecute this guy. So now it's open season on players to be accused, with whatever, witness testimony, whatever, and be suspended, right? That's going to be one side saying, well, okay, players now are more vulnerable than ever. Then you have the other side saying, like you just said so eloquently, we've got the Roe v. Wade. We've got the whole Ray Rice reaction. We've got the domestic violence issue and everything that the league says it's doing to care for women. We've got the workplace misbehavior stuff going on in Washington right now. Those accusations that have drawn congressional hearings that Roger Goodell testified in. Optics are bad all over the place. So again, regardless of the decision on this, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to say that's too lenient, that's too rough. There is a no win. There is a no win for anyone here, including, these women who are alleging these things. I mean, there's no win here other than, they settled financially. I guess they were okay with that. But there's really just no win optically or any way around anybody with the situation.
Yeah, practically it's just ugly, and unfortunately something has to come down, and like you said, for us to be able to react to it, the NFL, Deshaun Watson, all these parties involved, they're going to have to come to something, because it can continue to stay ugly if it goes to arbitration if suspensions are challenged and everything else. But Steve Wyche, NFL Media, NFL Network, man, appreciate you. The dean of all this, brother. Good brother. Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you guys.
Hey, thanks for watching Brother from Another on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe before you leave, and be sure to watch us 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock. Appreciate you.